Have you ever felt the need to mullet your bike even though it was never made for it? Well, we're gonna find out what it's like. Recently, my fork stopped working. The damper just basically blew out and stopped holding up the fork. So my friend Dan had a Pike laying around, and I said, you know what? It's a 29er fork, but I can stick that on my bike, right? All right, after that totally quirky intro, we're gonna go for a bit of a shreddy. So this video is just a kind of fun experiment that I decided to do because my current fork needs to get warrantied. Basically, I want to try out the 29er Pike with 130 millimeters of travel, which is 10 mil less than the 140 I had on the 35. So that meant that the axle to crown length was still longer even though I had 10 mil less travel. Effectively, this means my head tube angle is slacker and my bottom bracket is raised a little bit, which is better for straight line speed and stability over rough terrain and whatnot. But for the tight twisty trails that Long Island has, wasn't sure how this would work out, so let's find out how I thought it rode. Alright, that took pretty long to get used to. Also, I'm not so sure I really like this 29er wheel up front. Turning is much more sluggish. It's harder to turn in, and at Meadowlark Park there's so many tight turns, but on the straighter stuff with repeated routes it feels good, but I wouldn't say it's that much better than my 2.6 by 27.5, so it's kind of splitting hairs there. Alright, so now we transition to Glacier Ridge. Thought this would better suit the mullet setup. You know, Meadowlark Park was very tight and twisty. It didn't feel so good in the turns. Glacier Ridge, you can really open it up more straight line stuff, and we'll see if it feels better that way. All right, we gotta do the ridges nice and fast. Glacier Ridge has a lot of trails that allow you to maintain speed, and the 29er wheel definitely made it easier to maintain my speed, but once again, that higher bottom bracket, the weird offset, it kind of made turning in sluggish, even though Glacier Ridge has a lot of longer swooping turns that don't require a hard input, but I still wasn't really loving it. Obviously, we can't really neglect the fact that my fork before this wasn't working right, and now I'm on a fork with a much better damper with more fine-tuned adjustments. So obviously, I kind of like the way that this fork feels, even though it's not the fork for my bike. It just has a high quality feel. So definitely take that into account. So in conclusion, I think the mullet setup is cool, and I definitely notice that I get up to speed faster, and the rollover of the 29er is obviously better. But for my bike, being as it wasn't really designed for this, I'm gonna have to pass on it. I don't think it's something that I want long term for the trails that I ride. Long Island's trails are just very tight and twisty, and this setup doesn't really bode too well with that. So I'm gonna have to say nay on a mullet setup for my bike. However, I am gonna be keeping the 29er Pike on my bike, but I'll run a 27.5 by 2.6 inch tire like I normally have been doing, and I actually think that that feels quite good for some reason. Even though the offset is different, it still feels really good. So I'll let you guys know what happens with my original fork, the 35 Gold RL. I'm gonna try and warranty that through WorldWideCyclery, where I bought it from, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll make a video about that, I don't know, but I definitely want to get that fork working again. But that's about it from me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this video, and remember, stay venture, my friends.